welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Ashley with the Yarn Barn NC, and in today's video, it is going to be a market recap. So this past Saturday, April 5th, was my first market of 2025. I was very excited to do this. Oh, sorry, my email. I was very excited to do this market. I have done 2 previous markets at this same event last year. This was their opening day of they have like a park type thing on the other side of the farm, which has like a whole bunch of like kids activities, slides, and things like that. So it's definitely a great place for me to sell my plushies. I did the opening and then I did a strawberry fest. I only signed up for one this year because I already have a couple around the same time that their other like strawberry fest and things like that were going. I had very high expectations for this market, and we will talk a little bit later on about everything that sold and how well the market did and if I will do this one again. But I do have a few clips from the market just showing you my setup, everything like that. It's my normal setup that I always do. I haven't really changed it up that much, but I was missing a few things that I normally take just because I didn't get around to it. Again, very similar to what I've done in the past. I usually do about the same setup because it seems to work really well. So I haven't really added or taken anything away. Some of the same items, things like that. Everything is pretty much the same. It's been the same for about the past year. Let's go ahead and get into what sold. So I am going to preface this. This was an event that I've done in the past, like I said, and I paid $100 to be at this market, which is a little bit higher. It was a 9 to 5 or 10 to 5. I had to be there at 9 a.m. to set up. So it started at 10, ended at 5. There were probably like 15-ish vendors. I think they added about 5 or 6 from last year. They had a little separate area where they added extra vendors, so that was great. So there were a couple more vendors than there were last year. So I was the only crocheter there. There was nobody selling like any like wearables or anything or any other plushies. I was the only crocheter. I was beside a sourdough lady, and of course I love being by the sourdough people because they're always really popular. Everybody loves sourdough, so I was kind of excited to be next to her. She was really sweet. And then I had a few other, like there were a few people selling like baby clothes, like a boutique, and then some pottery, flowers, and then they also had like an actual farmer's market, which a booth that was selling like actual like produce and stuff. They are always there. They're there every week, and they were there last year as well. So I did get to walk around a little bit. I didn't buy anything besides there was a booth selling, they're called crumble cups, and they were like little cheesecake cup things. They were so good. So, and then we had some barbecue. The barbecue, that's literally why Luke loves that place so much. The barbecue food truck is so good. So we will go ahead and get started with what sold. I will try my best to convince Luke to put pictures on either sides here. I'm not sure, since it's like flip, I don't know, one of these corners. I will make sure he puts in some pictures. I can tell you my first sale of the day was to the lady that runs the event. She purchased 2 Mabel chickens out of like the little chicken coop, and I only brought exactly enough to fill the chicken coop. So for the rest of the day, I was missing chickens in my chicken coop, which again, that's always my fault that I only bring exactly as many that fit in the chicken coop, which is 12. But I just didn't have time to make any more. I just had enough time to make as many, like the only 12, and then that was it. So I will make sure by my next market, which is the 26th, I will have extra so I don't have empty spots on my chicken coop. So in total, I sold 3 Mabel chickens. I sell my Mabel chickens for $14 a piece, and we sold 3 of those. Up next, I sold a clam, which was a pattern test that I did for Crochet Grove. I was actually pattern testing her crab, but then I also made like a whole bunch of other things for the pattern test as well, just, you know, to have fun and make extra things. And the clam was so much fun. It was a lot of work for the size, so that was kind of my fault for making it out of Parfait Chunky. My bad. But I sold a clam for $12, and then we sold 2 of the Baby Yodas, the Baby Yoda pattern from Crochet with Bay. I take these to all of my markets. I take them to all of my markets. They sell very well. Everybody loves them. I even take them to some of my in-person stores. They're amazing. They're awesome. Great market sellers. I'm just kind of running out. That's the only green I have left, and so I'm trying to use it sparingly until, fingers crossed, Sweet Snuggles comes back. Please. Please. A part of my last market prep video were the chicks and eggs. This was my first market bringing chicks and eggs to. I have sold them in an in-person store before and they did really well, so I had a little bit of high hopes, and I sold 3 of those. I couldn't really tell you which color combination because I had so many of them, but I sold 3 of those for $15. And if I didn't mention in the last clip, the Baby Yoda I also sell for $15. Up next we had a pocket octo. I take these to every market. They are great small items. I made it out of Parfait Chunky, which keeps them a little bit smaller, but I think the colors out of Parfait Chunky just work a lot better for the pocket octos, and I sell my pocket octos for $12. I sold 1 clownfish, which is again from that same pack from Crochet Grove. I made that one out of Parfait Chunky. Turned out pretty small, but I was just kind of keeping the same yarn when I was making all of them. I only sold 1 quote-unquote big item, which was a cow. It was the Ren Meow cow pattern, which I love. Again, I take to every market. I do a whole bunch of color combinations. They're great. Quite a bit of sewing, but the sewing's not that difficult. You know, like you sew the head on, and then the arms, and then all the face, you know, like the snout and ears and stuff, you know, they're in the same spot on every cow, so it's kind of just self-explanatory with where those go. Another thing that I made in my market prep video last week were 2 loaf cats, and I sell my loaf cats for $16. The mini loaf cats. I actually made big loaf cats, but I forgot to take them. They're on my desk when I came home, and I'm like, that's where they are. I just left them behind, but it's okay. I have them for the next market. Lastly, I sold a crab for $12. Again, Crochet Grove Sea Creatures pattern pack. That was a total of $237, and we sold 15 total plushies. Now, I can say that knowing that I paid $100 to be at this market, I actually only made like a little over $100 once you minus, you know, the square fees and the gas, because it was like 45 minutes away, you know. So, you know, it was kind of a market flop. I'm not gonna lie. I did this market twice last year, and when I look back on my records for both of these markets, I made well over $1,000 at both of them, and I had very high hopes. That's why I did the market prep video. I tried to take as many things as I could. I tried to prep as many things as I could, and honestly, it was just really slow. I mean, there were a lot of people there, lots of kids running around, you know, food trucks, other vendors, you know, there were so many things to do, and there were a lot of people, just not many people actually buying things. And again, that wasn't an issue last year that I had. It was mainly like every kid that came up here, like their parents bought them something. So I'm not exactly sure what was happening on Saturday. I really have no idea what was going on. I hate to say I don't want to go back because I did have 2 really good markets and this was their opening day, so maybe it just wasn't as busy. I don't really know. I really couldn't tell you. I was invited into a few more, but unfortunately for their like spring and summer markets, I won't be able to do them. Spring, I'm already booked up, and I personally just don't like doing markets in the summer because it's way too hot. She did mention about like some fall markets because they have like a haunted corn maze and like haunted house, and like they have a lot of things extra during the fall season, and maybe it would be a little bit different, you know, bringing like some ghosts and some pumpkins and things like that. But honestly, my expectations were really high and I was very let down on this. So I haven't made up my mind whether I'm gonna do it again. I will wait and see what, you know, she reaches out about applying for the future markets. I know that they are this is a specific market, is very closed when it comes to applications. They usually keep the same vendors and they have like a vendor email list and they just send the applications to them. So it's very hard to get into, which I understand because before the markets were really good and they wanted to keep returning vendors. They wanted, you know, smaller, no repeating items, things like that. So I will keep an eye out for what gets sent my way for the fall season, because as of right now, I think I have 2 markets planned in September. I'm waiting to hear back on an application for August, but other than that, I have nothing planned. So I am not that upset. I have a very big market coming up on the 26th. I'm not that upset, but you know, I can just take extra things to this next market. But it was a little disappointing that I went to this market twice last year, did very well, and then this year it was a flop. I will say this is one of the worst markets I have had in a very long time, but you know, that's the way to play the game. You never know how much money you're gonna make. I will just, fingers crossed, I don't have another one like this, because you know, I was expecting a good one. I don't know what else to say. That's all I have to say. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and if you want to see more crochet content, feel free to subscribe. So I'll see you guys next time in the next video. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Bye.